Okay, welcome. Today we're going to do a wet into wet demonstration, which means we're going to wet this area, we're going to wet the page, and then drop in wet paint into where we want it. And I've already used a little tape here to mask out my skyline, and then I've also made some pencil lines here because I want to kind of retain somewhat of this cloud shape. And the other reason is I'm going to put some blue over here, and then I'm going to have different layers of colors here, and then I'm going to have some yellow in here. So I sometimes will draw a loose sketch of the cloud shape just to give me an idea of what the overall larger shape will look like. And now I'm also going to be painting upside down over here just so you can get a clear view of what is happening. All right, now the colors I'm going to use today are Aurelian by Daniel Smith. I also have Shinhan Opera, which is Opera Rose. You can also use Alizarin Crimson instead of Opera. And then I have a Cerulean too. Now all of these are very kind of light, transparent colors. So if we accidentally mix them together, it'll make a little bit of a dull neutral, but it won't gray out in a gross, yucky way that we learned about in our lecture last week, which is if you mix 3 opaque colors together, that can happen. So again, we're going to use Aurelian. You could also use lemon, but this one will have a nice sky color. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is wet everything here. So I have some clean water to do that. Now I am using a wash brush, but you could use a big chubby round brush. Okay, and so we don't want to scrub it at this stage, we do just want to wet it a little bit. And this will help to keep our sky nice and loose as we go in. I'm just going in here and trying not to worry too much because this is a wet into wet painting, and I'm also really good at glazing, and so if you need to, I can always add a glaze. So I try to just let this part be fun, just like loosen up a little bit, let it be fun. Let the paint swirl around, clear your mind. Remember all those feelings you had when you first learned how to paint. Okay, so we're gonna let some of this dry, and something I struggle with is leaving it alone because it always is a little bit it's going to be a little feathery in here, but that's the nature of the wet into wet beast, right? And I've got a little bit of a cloud shape happening here, but this is going to have to happen in stages. Even though it's wet into wet, in theory, technically I want this to dry, and I'll do this in stages. Alright, so this is a little bit dry. Some of these areas in the middle I'm going to add a little more clear water to. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want this to kind of go on. And some of it's going to turn purple, remember? That is okie dokie. And this is looking a little bit bright, but I'm going to add a little blue to it. And this is where you can have fun. Just play. Remember, everyone's sky is gonna look different, right? And that is the beauty of this class. Everybody's a little bit different. Now, I really love when like the kind of glazes overlap here a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna put a lot of paint on here because I'm gonna lift some of this now. So I have a paper towel. This is a kind of damp paper towel, and it's kind of elongated because my cloud shapes are kind of long. Now and a damp paper towel won't pick up as much pigment. And then remember, you can always add more pigment after this dries. So then I go back, and sometimes I just use my water from that I've been cleaning my brushes in, because like right now this one is kind of a violet water, just to kind of smooth out any parts I don't love. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry. And it looks like a mess in the middle, but just stay with it and don't let go of your dream while it's drying, okay? So stay with it, and we're gonna keep adding some layers. Okay, I'm adding some more blue over here. I'm gonna go see, like there's some purple kind of escaping, so we'll just go ahead and let it. I'm gonna pull some of this out. Okay, and then let's not lose sight of the fact that I want to put some yellow in here. Now I'm intentionally using my water. This is my brush water, right? I'm using this water because it already has some purple in it. And oh, look at that. It's gonna just bleed upwards into the sky. We couldn't have even predicted that. This Aurelian is playing very well with the other brand. I like it so much, I'm gonna just add a little more. And this is where you can have fun with it. You can start pulling it around, and then we know that these are transparent colors, so if it gets kind of mixed in together, it's gonna be okay. It will just give us a little bit of gray, a neutral gray, and not be any color we don't like. Not that we don't like any color, but more like what is useful for our painting. Okay, and then let's give a little definition to the painting. And then remember, everything's gonna dry a little differently. This is kind of a wild looking cloud. This is like a Lisa Frank cloud. Does anyone remember Lisa Frank? They had the like notebooks. It's like a brand from the 90s. Oh my god, I kind of love this. It looks really not like the world at all, but I'm sort of feeling this right now. Okay, so here's the part where you have to make yourself stop. So I'm gonna make myself stop, and I'm gonna send this to you as part 1, and you'll get part 2 when I do the glazing and the mountains, which will be tomorrow afternoon.